Nintendo!
Hey everyone, this is Chrono. Welcome to my guide for Kazzara, the first boss of the upcoming raid, Aberrus the Shadowed Crucible. As per usual, keep in mind that this is footage from the PTR, so things are subject to change going to live. Without further ado, let's get started. The tank swap mechanic is Terror Claws. It does high physical damage and moderate magic damage. Use your judgment for how many stacks you can handle before each taunt. At 70, 50, and 30%, chunks of Kazzara's armor will break off, doing a moderate amount of raid damage. Be sure to avoid the fragments that fly off, as those also do a large amount of additional damage. Infernal Heart is passive ticking raid damage that persists throughout the entire encounter. This begins ticking every 4 seconds and will speed up as the boss gets lower. Dread Rifts will pick several players, indicated by circles around them. Once these expire, they leave behind a rift on the floor that persists indefinitely, dealing damage to anybody who steps into them. As Kazzara loses more armor, each cast will target additional players, so the floor can quickly get covered as the fight progresses. Rays of Anguish will pick random players, and a laser beam will begin chasing each of them, leaving behind a trail of fire, which quickly expire as they're being drawn. Baiting these into a Dread Rift will dispel both the beam and the rift, and leave behind a permanent patch of fire instead. If beams are still active by the time a new set appears, then all existing beams will move faster, and begin dealing ticking raid damage until you get rid of them all. Hellbeam is your run-of-the-mill frontal Dragon's Breath. It's just like Razageth's Lightning Beam. Failure to react to this is certain death, so make sure you're fully aware of when this is about to happen. Wings of Extinction knocks everyone in the raid away from the boss, dealing moderate damage and applies a lingering dot. There's actually no special strategy needed for this encounter, and being that it's the first boss of the raid, that's honestly a very welcome thing to hear. Aranog was a well-received boss for how it was tuned relative to its placement in the raid, and I think Kazzara fits the criteria to do the same in Aberrus. You could certainly go into this fight blind, and the mechanics would make sense to you as they occur. The main thing that will punish you is having too many laser beams active at any given time, as this will cause the rot damage to get out of hand. The ramping ticking damage, overlapping with the raid-wide knockback, could prove to be lethal if you haven't gotten rid of enough beams before another set comes out. As long as you make clearing the Rays of Anguish a priority, then this boss should be a pushover. Other than increased number tuning, there's one new mechanic on Mythic called Infernal Fusion. Anytime a laser collides into a patch of fire, the entire raid takes a burst of damage. A single instance of this isn't a big deal, but if many happen all at once, then it could start to get ugly. During testing, this felt a bit underwhelming, so I wouldn't be surprised if this gets tuned up a bit to make it a little bit more punishing. Hopefully if that's the case, they don't make it such that one collision is a straight up wipe, as that could just make the boss more annoying than fun. This addition on Mythic doesn't make the fight any more complicated. You just have to be a bit more mindful of where you're dragging the lasers as to not cause a cascading calamity. Overall, I think both the heroic and mythic versions of this boss were pretty fun for an opening encounter. It's a single target boss where you get a good amount of uptime, and there's non-stop rot damage for healers so they aren't AFK the entire time. The mechanics are punishing enough, but not to the point where it's frustrating. Thanks for dropping in for another guide. I hope you found it helpful. We're about a month out until the raid releases, so look forward to guides for the rest of the bosses. Until then, see you guys next time.